Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be taking a look at the next video in our top 5 favorite series. Last week we wrapped up the primary colors by looking at the reds, and today we are going to start looking at the secondary colors with the color purple. Now, purple happens to be one of my favorite colors. I, in particular, like the warm purples that lean a little bit towards the pinker or redder sides of things, but purples in general don't often find a place on many people's palettes, especially limited color palettes, because they are very convenient to mix from primary reds and blues that you might already have there. But I do like working with quite a few of these pigments, and so I thought it would be fun to take a look at them. Our video today is going to cover a wide variety of hues, ranging almost from the magenta side all the way to some of the coolest purples and violets imaginable. I think it'll be a lot of fun, so let's go ahead and jump in. In order to see what our purples are capable of, we're going to be mixing them with a variety of colors here, and they will always be arranged in the same order on the sheets. We are going to be using yellow ochre, Hansa Yellow Deep, QUINACRIDONE Burnt Orange, Pyrrole Red, QUINACRIDONE Rose, Phthalo Blue Green shade, Cobalt Teal, Phthalo Green Blue shade, Perylene Green, and Raw Umber. Starting off at number 5, we are going to be taking a look at QUINACRIDONE Purple, which is made from PV55 by SCHMINCKE. This color is a relatively new color to watercolors, and it was added to SCHMINCKE's line earlier in 2017. This is a very, very cool violet when you first apply it to the paper, although it does tend to dry a little bit warmer. And when you mix it with some of the other colors that we're going to be looking at today, it reacts pretty uniquely as far as purples go. Purple's opposite on the color wheel is yellow, and so when you mix it with yellows, typically in the purple range, you're going to neutralize it and make a brown color. However, you don't find that as much here with the yellows because something about the coolness of the color, it just doesn't quite ring as brown. It looks really like if you mixed yellow with purple and put it on a page, you can kind of see the influences of both of those colors here. Mixed with QUINACRIDONE Rose, it makes a very deep magenta color, and mixed with the Phthalo Blue, it makes this beautiful deep navy tone. I really like the colors on the darker side of things as well, where we've got Perylene Green and Phthalo Green mixed together to make these really deep moody colors. The teal in particular is really, really beautiful. And the shade that it makes when mixed with Raw Umber is really close to kind of a brickish red, but on the purple side of things. Coming in at number 4 on the list is possibly the most controversial pick for this particular video, being that it's a purple video, and this is a very, very, very pink tone, but we are going to be looking at QUINACRIDONE Violet from DAVINCI. This is made from PV19, which we saw last week show up twice on our reds list because PV19 can make a very, very wide range of hues depending on how the pigment is treated. DAVINCI last week is also responsible for making a very beautiful variety of this color for alizarin crimson, which makes this deep red tone, crimson in color, as the name would suggest, but it is also responsible for making this very, very cool magenta pink tone. Mixed with our yellows, we can start getting closer to that brown that we mentioned, and it makes some really, really beautiful tones mixed with the warmer yellows and even the orange. Mixed with the reds, it's not going to be too much different from where it is already. And then mixing into the blues, we're going to get some surprisingly not very bright colors. We have a deep navy once again and a very granulating color when we mix it with the cobalt teal. We're going to have similar colors over here in the darker range as we did with the QUINACRIDONE Purple, going from a deep teal to a deep, deep, deep purple, and also that brickish purpley red. Coming in at number 3 on my list is Rose of Ultramarine from Daniel Smith, made from PV19 and PV29. This is the first time I'm including a dual pigment on the list. For the most part, I'm trying to stay away from dual pigment colors, but this happens to be my absolute favorite shade of purple that you can buy in a tube, and so it had to make my list somewhere. Given the fact that it is my favorite purple that you can buy out of a tube, I did consider putting it higher up on the list. However, when it comes to everyday use, I don't find myself reaching for it very often. Due to the ultramarine that is in this pigment, it does granulate very heavily when you mix it with other colors, and my favorites from this page are mixing it with the QUINACRIDONE burnt orange and the phthalo green blue shade. I do apologize that this video clip is cut a little bit short. I forgot to hit the record when I was switching between clips, and I wasn't able to get the beginning part of that footage, but I am including the swatch card here so that you can go ahead and take a look at those earlier mixes. If you've been watching the rest of the series, you know that I've had trouble when I come across two colors that I absolutely love but are very similar to each other, and this week I decided to let them share a spot. Coming in at number 2 are PERYLENE Violet made from PV29 and NAPHTHAMIDE Maroon made from PR171. Although these pigments are quite different in terms of where they are stored within the pigment number categories, they are very similar in actuality when you are painting with them. The NAPHTHAMIDE Maroon is definitely more on the red side, while PERYLENE Violet has a more muted, slightly more violet tone to it. However, both of these colors are very much within the brick red category. I know it would be a little bit controversial to include them on this list, but the mixes that they make are very similar to other shades of violets, and I reach for them in that same spot. I've been using both of these colors a lot more recently within the last 6 months or so, and they are absolute staples on my palette that I love reaching for. On this swatch card, I am showing you the mixtures made with NAPHTHAMIDE Maroon. Even though it doesn't technically have violet in the name, I feel like I prefer these colors just a hair over the PERYLENE Violet mixtures. They tend to be a little bit warmer, which you know I love, and we can start seeing with those yellow mixtures that when you mix this color with them, you get these beautiful ranges of browns, starting with a really soft brown with that yellow ochre and ramping up to a very, very deep middle brown with that quinacridone burnt orange. The colors that you get when you mix this with reds are absolutely beautiful. When you mix it with pyrrole red, you get a very, very deep brick color, and mixed with quinacridone rose, you get a really deep, moody magenta. It doesn't make violets when you mix it with blues, but as we move into our darker tones, you'll see the mixtures with phthalo green and raw umber in particular are really beautiful, both for deep dark green and a deep brown, respectively. So which purple did I save for my number 1 spot? Well, it should be pretty obvious. It hasn't shown up on the list already. You've seen me use it in numerous videos, and it makes its way onto almost every palette I make. It is Dioxazine Violet. Now, my favorite version of this color is from Quor, and the one I'm using in the mixtures on this swatch card is from Winsor & Newton. I have an entire color spotlight dedicated to PV23 and all its wonderful uses. We talk about its light fastness ratings, which can be quite controversial depending on the manufacturer, and we go into all the depths there, but here I have a couple of the mixes to showcase for you. It makes the most delicious color brown when you mix it with quinacridone burnt orange. It makes beautiful, beautiful red violets when it's mixed with a cool red. You've got some nice deep navy blues when you mix it with darker blues, some really bright but still moody greens when mixed with phthalo green, and when you mix it with raw umber, you get a beautiful, deep, dark, earthy shadow color. Although purples are not as common on limited palettes especially, this one is worth having on your palette, and even though it sits next to my favorite color of Rose of Ultramarine within the purple family, I use this one way more often. Be sure to let me know in the comments below what your favorite shade of purple is and what you use it most often for. I have had so much fun starting this series off with you in 2017 and look forward to continuing it into 2018. I hope you all have a wonderful and safe New Year celebration, and I will see you just on the other side. Thank you so much for all your likes and comments and for subscribing to this channel. If you'd like to see more, make sure you go ahead and hit that little bell icon. Special thanks to my patrons, many of whom have been with me for most of the year over on Patreon. If you'd like to see more content, more tutorials, or even just the photographs of the swatch cards from this series, you can go ahead and check out my Patreon over on patreon.com. There's links in the description below, and we'd love to have you as part of the community. Alrighty guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the year, and I will see you next week.